Okay, so the minimums, and we've been talking about this, so we'll run through this real fast. The minimums that you need to go to the website, create a login, and you have to use an authentic email and password, because if you don't do that, you can't, what's the word?
Activate it.
You can't activate it, but authenticate. So you can't authenticate it. So if you put a bogus email address, then you'll never be able to get on LinkedIn.
Can you change your email address?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just curious. I mean,
Yeah, you can change anything that you want on your profile. But when you get in here, make sure that you use an email address that you can access, because you'll have to click on a link to get back, like a lot of other services. Creating a profile. There's a profile link that pulls down here, and you get to edit profile, which is the first entry under this top link. So you start by entering your name, title, location, and what are you working on? What are you working on is this blank that appears in your profile. It could be looking for a new job, I got a new dog. I linked LinkedIn to Twitter, so now if I send a Twitter out, now it ends up in that white box. I didn't know that was going to happen. I said, oh, that's okay. What are you working on blank that you can fill in? Allows you to tell people you're looking for an engineering position, that something that you want your audience to see. It doesn't have to be a job. It could be I'm looking for somebody that has a new house, or how do I fix a pipe in my basement, or something like that. But I'm sure that you'll think about something that's relevant to why you have LinkedIn. You can put anything you want in there. It's limited to some number of characters. I don't remember how many.
Well, also, Lonnie, what are you working on? Also, it keeps track of how long that is up there. So if you say you're looking for a job, and you go on your website, you know, your LinkedIn page 2 months later, and you haven't updated that, it still says what you wrote, looking for a job, but then it says 2 months ago or 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
So it tells you how long it's been, and that may not be a good thing for people who are looking for jobs.
Yeah, it tells you how many hours or how many days it's been.
How many days it's been posted that way. Excuse me?
And if you're not getting hired, then maybe there's a reason, and that you wouldn't want to advertise that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying it automatically will track how long that information has been there when you originally put it in. If you then go change it, I'm sure it'll just say, okay, if you say looking for an engineering position, it's up there for 2 months, you don't want it there that long. You just say looking for engineering design position. Well, that's a new entry, so it's like fresh. So it's like refreshes it.
So you need to go back and update it.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, some people, you know, I don't think it looks good if, and I have to do it for myself too, is update it, because if it says you're looking for a position and it's been up there for 4 or 5 months, that's not a good thing.
Okay.
Well, another thing is that when things get stale, in general, so I think if you have your profile on LinkedIn and you're making entries, I think it's a good thing to change things up at least a little bit periodically, so that you continue to get attention. If you keep looking at the same thing day after day, month after month, and it's not dynamic, there's no change. Why would you go back?
Also, if you don't update it, you don't show up in somebody's newsfeed.
Yeah.
So no one even knows that you're...
They don't know you're there, but even if they just went to your profile, you know, every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks or whatever, if there's nothing changed, pretty soon they get bored, lose interest. So it's a good idea to just sort of change things up in one way or another. And I guess there's not just arbitrarily, but think about what would help fulfill your goals for LinkedIn, and make a change in that direction. Okay, start your name. What are you working on? So right down here is that white box that shows up. So, which you can't read, and I can't read either. But it might say something like, Lonnie just returned from a trip to Corvallis, Oregon, working on a printing press, something like that.
So how often do you update yours? That,
That white space, probably once a week,
really?
probably, with something. Okay, so in your profile, at the top of it, there's a summary. And when I wrote these slides originally, I didn't even know about this new feature that, by the way, Cindy said didn't work too well for her when she had a resume and pressed the magic button.
I didn't like it.
Cindy said it made a mess of
It's
things.
populating like weird stuff in weird sections, and it doesn't look very nice, so I need now to go back through, hit the edit button, and edit each of those parts.
Do you write in the third person?
Pardon me?
Do you write in
It
the
was
third
just a
person?
it was just a resume.
Well, on the summary part.
Over 25 years biotech experience, blah, blah, blah. It's not really in any person. It's just a summary.
Yeah, I know, but I just, you know, yeah, I was just like kind of debating, like saying, you know,
Somebody
let's
else
say
writing
Lonnie.
about you, as opposed to you writing about yourself.
I'd write it in
Exactly, so I
first
was writing
person.
it like I was writing about that person, even though it's me.
No, I'd
That's
write
how
it
I
in
did
first person. I'm this, I'm doing this.
Oh, I did this,
Yeah.
okay. All right, okay.
I did this project for my company
Right.
and saved them $50 million bucks.
Right.
And this is where you're bragging
Okay.
in the summary area.
In the summary,
I know, it's like debating, and I don't know, for some reason I came up with third person, but okay.
Yeah, it's like it was pulling it, I pressed that button and it was taking like the wrong pieces of my resume and putting it in the different areas. And it was like, it wasn't even in chronological order or the way it was supposed to happen. And I'm like, okay, now I gotta go back and figure that out. So it looks a mess. You can actually bring it up sometime if you wanna show everybody what a mess looks like.
Why would I want to do that?
Because I've seen some that are really good. So I'm like, hey, how'd you do that? I want you to teach me how you did that.
Okay. So what I started off doing before I saw the magic button that doesn't sound like it worked too well is write your resume, spell check it, make sure it's all ready to go, and then cut and paste from your resume into the profile. That worked really well for me. The only thing LinkedIn doesn't do, I couldn't find a way for it to spell check. Did anybody, have you seen that it spell checks? I haven't seen a way that it spell checks. So, make sure your resume is spell checked.
Get Firefox and have one of the add-ins for spell checking.
And do what?
Get a spell check add-in for Firefox.
It's like a plugin.
Oh, did that cost anything?
They're free. I don't
Okay.
use one, but I've heard that they're there.
Okay, I'll have to write that down after. See, what was I showing here? This is, let's see, when you read, same thing. So that's the basic profile. Summary, your name, email address, and you're in business, at least to start. So as you build up this network, I mean, this is what I do. I sort of look at some people that are doing things what I consider the right way for what I want to accomplish, and I try to emulate them in my own way. Not copy them, but see how they do it. How do they handle themselves, and how do they make the changes? Request recommendations from those in your network. We talked about that a few minutes ago. It's perfectly okay. People do it all the time. And then once you get those recommendations, they end up in your profile. You actually have the option of showing it or not showing it. So once they write you a recommendation, doesn't mean you have to put it into your profile. You can just ignore it. So you can search for candidates in your network and ask to be introduced by connections, or you can send your own invitation.
Just remembered one other thing that the premium gives you. The free account, you're limited to 5 introductions at a time.
At a time, and when does the time, over what time period?
When one is completed and it comes, you can see the number of introductions that are pending.
Okay.
When those come down.
When they clear?
When those clear, then.
Or do you just have to clear one and then you can send one?
If one's hung up, nobody's responding, you can delete it.
Oh, okay.
But if you've got 5 outstanding, you can't ask for another introduction.
You know, I've actually never requested an introduction by anybody.
Oh, I have.
It's useful to do it. I mean, that's what this is all about, but I just haven't done it.